everyone, welcome to Kunda 7, a place where we share ideas, tricks to elevate our homes. I'm so glad you're here, and let's get started. Today we're gonna talk about the African decorating mistakes. I've seen people decorate. Sometimes you're thinking like, oh my god, stop doing that. But one man's meat is another man's poison, because I think there is no such a thing where it fits all. Yeah, when thinking about that, I'm thinking about people who do maximalist. In case you just don't know what maximalists do, it's where you go extreme of everything. For instance, I found this page on Instagram, and I was just taking a look, and I'm like, how come this person has even so many followers? Like, how on earth do people like this? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we can't all just fit in one box. So if I say something here that you do, don't feel bad about it. But if you just want to learn how to create a cohesive space, keep watching. My number one point, matchy decorating. You've seen people, I think I'm not the only one who has seen this actually, where people decorate, where someone gets a sofa, it's in zebra stripes, and then gets a same carpet, which is in the same stripes, gets the same throw-on pillows, which is the same, and you're thinking like, oh my god, what are you doing? I think when you do matchy, it lacks character. There's no expression of who you are when you're doing matchy. Decorating a place, it needs to have your personality, how you express yourself. But when everything is matchy, it lacks character of who you are. I just find it, so the Germans would say, komisch. So personally, I do think that if you're to create a space which is cohesive, which is very personal, I do think that you should avoid going matchy. That's my opinion, okay? So another point will be misplaced art. Art placement is really important, honestly. Like, you must have a strategy. You must know how heavy is it fitting the space. And most interior designers actually would say that you should measure, like you should have a certain length. But for me, I do think that it depends on the space. You should be able to use your eyes, like, is it fitting? Check your space and see like, oh, this is fitting. For me, I use my eyes a lot, just like I don't measure salt. Some people, they measure everything. Like, I don't measure the water to put in rice. I just know, I can use my eyes and know this is fitting, this isn't fitting. So, but I also think that it will always depend on the space. Like, when you see this picture here, you can really tell this is misplaced. This is wrong art in a wrong place. So yeah, the next point would be over decorating. And when it comes to African interiors, actually Africans are like a minimal by nature, because most people didn't grow up with so much. So literally people would have less things. A praise into your personality somehow. Like, you don't have to earn so much. But when it comes to styling or decorating, I think some people mostly don't know what to do. They see something is trendy and then they don't know what to do. They just apply whatever they think in their head, over decorate something, and then the place feels like you can't really breathe. And yeah, and a few years ago, actually, like, when it comes to PR about Africa, like, African people like have been doing bad when it comes to PR. Like, when you Google like African interior design style or something, like, the things that come up, they are like over decorated places, and you're thinking like, oh my god, like, what's this? But on ground, like, the actual people are not like that. They don't overdo stuff. They're minimal by nature. And of course, I think you can't blame other people for that. I think us Africans, we've been like so bad when it comes to PR. So bad. Like, when you Google something about Africa, it's always the other side of the stories that come up. I mean, like, we let people tell our stories. Mostly when it comes to interiors, not even of recent, that's when people have started like, like, accepting the African interiors. Before, when there would be an exhibition, Africans who would not get invited in, and when they would get invited, it's sort of like a token invite, so that they can show they are diverse. And then they give them funny names like ethnic. I do have a problem with that name. Just give a whole continent ethnic. Anyways, what I'm talking about is that over decorating a space can really mess up a place. Overdone color palettes. And I know that African interiors do appreciate the bold color palettes, the neutral color palettes. Sometimes some people go overboard with the color palettes, and some people actually don't really consider, like when you're buying stuff for your interiors, don't consider the elements of the space. Like when they're doing stuff, they just do things without thinking. Like you must actually think about the color palette you have in your space when you're buying your home elements, home decor items. Like what colors do I have back home? What things would really match cohesively to the space? You have to consider on the tints, the shades of the space. Like when you're designing your space, I think it's very, very important to put those things into consideration. But when you go overboard, it's overwhelming. Personally, I think when you're designing a space, I think it's important to start with the neutrals, and that's where the 60-30-10% rule actually comes in. Like the base color, the same, and then you go to the 30%, then you go to the 10%. Mostly for the overwhelming colors, you have them in accent pairs. Base color mostly should be neutral. Okay, my next point should be tacky decorating. Tacky decorating, that's my next point. This is not over decorating. This is tacky decorating, where you buy things because you like them. And this has happened to me. So I'm lucky enough that mostly I traveled to, I think for the last 5 years, I would travel to East Africa every year except for this year. Mostly I would buy these amazing decor items. I love them and I think that they're going to fit into this space, but then when I reach here, they're not fitting at all. So what do? I just keep them. I have some items really that are bought and they're not used. This happens to everyone, but for some people, when they buy something, they like it. Because they like it, they will just come on the table. Then the next time they buy something which literally isn't fitting at all, and then I like this, and sit on the table, is what we call tacky decorating. It can really make your whole place look tacky. Basically, like when you're buying things, you have to think about are they things fitting? And sometimes you can be like lucky, you buy items and then they're fitting, but then sometimes they don't. And that brings me to another point, dimensions and measurements. You've seen some people who buy items that are super too big, like too small or too big. And that's really comish, like it's bad. When you don't measure your space, when you're buying your items, it's gonna mess up your place, honestly. It's gonna mess up your whole space because you don't know the dimensions of the space. So you just go buy a sofa, which is literally like when you put it in the living room, then it feels like it's misplaced. You get what I'm saying? Normally I would advise, like before you buy any furniture, before you buy anything, actually most of the big furniture, you must measure the space. If you don't, then you're messing up your place. You find yourself like you have a small sofa or you have a so big sofa, it's not matching the space, like it's too big or it's too tiny, or you have a very tiny coffee table which isn't fitting to the sofa of the space of the living room. It won't really look nice. So avoid this mistake by always measuring your space before you buy any big furniture elements. Yeah, lastly, I'm gonna talk about bad mixing patterns. I would think actually this is very, very easy to mix patterns, but no. Actually, it's very hard, and I've seen some people make the mistake of mixing patterns. Sometimes, like they don't know how to bring together the different patterns that they have. I've seen some spaces like you are struggling actually to separate the chair from the wall. You're like, is that the same wall or is that the same sofa? Like it's the whole mess up. Literally, if you're choosing your African items, always think about the patterns, like what kind of patterns am I getting? And if you want to stay safe, choose neutral colors. That way you can really get away with some decorating mistakes without anybody noticing. When you go into bold colors and then you mess up somewhere, then you will have a problem. Like, yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for subscribing to this channel. And I would love if you leave me a comment of what you think. And also for people who are asking me if I could actually link some products, some of the B-roll that I share on this channel. I'm doing a research on what companies I should actually be able to link. Like I didn't think about that actually starting this channel. So I'm always like, I want to, if I link something, I have to make sure it's good. Like if I recommend it, it must be good. And also it must be benefiting people maybe of the African content. So I'm still really researching on what companies I can really link up. So yeah, bear with me. But with time, let's first grow this family. And yeah, leave me a comment, please. Otherwise, I think I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye for now.